had this moment where I'm like, oh, what if this isn't even about the product? What if I could figure out how to create a product that works, but then what if I launch this beauty company and I take my makeup off, which I'd never done in my life, take my makeup off and show, like, if I could create a product that works, I'll just take my makeup off and show my bright red rosacea and show how it works. And maybe one day I could get on QVC and then use models that are all different ages and shapes and sizes and skin tones and skin problems and call them beautiful and mean it. So you guys, I just want to share something. Anybody out there feeling like, oh, do I belong? And do I have will I be embraced by this industry I'm in? You know, we all have the same thoughts. And this is going to be a bold statement.
Get them.
What I realized, I could have never sold my company for over $1 billion had I not been odd. Had I ever listened to all the feedback along the way from really well-intentioned experts and retailers about how to conform, about how my packaging needs to be, about how to fit in this beauty space, about what I need to change or alter or, you know, or create to fit into what's going to sell. Had I ever listened to that when it didn't feel authentic to who I was, it never would have happened. And here's what I mean by that. And I just want to share this for anyone who needs this today, because this is so, so, so powerful. Because if you are doing something authentically to you, by definition, no one else out there can do it the way you do it, right? So by definition, it's novel. It's never been done before. And listen, I went to a beauty space. There's millions of beauty companies, but you know, I stayed authentic and did it a different way. Was told I was odd. Was told your idea is not going to work. And you guys, I started in my living room, and it was 3 years of, you know, having this product that I believed in so strongly, that worked for me. But I didn't want to have crazy, fancy, expensive packaging, because I always felt like, as a consumer, for me, if I bought something that was so fancy, like it was really pretty, I would put it on my counter and I would look at it, but I wouldn't use it. I wanted people to Exactly. I wanted people to not be afraid and to use it. And so I was told over and over by a lot of retailers, your packaging is not expensive or fancy enough. And then when I wanted to use real women and people as models, I was told women won't buy makeup unless there's such this aspirational thing of beauty that they can never look like. That's what will sell. And I'm like, that doesn't, like, maybe, just maybe, women are sick and tired of seeing people who don't look like them modeling a product, because how are they going to know it works for them if they don't see somebody that has, anyways. So I would keep going in, and I kept getting told, right? You're not the right fit.
Well, you're bringing your values into your work, which is so key. You're bringing your values into work. You're like, I want to have, you know, models for It Cosmetic who look like regular humans, you know, not like the traditional, you know, waif model. We wanted to have people who, you know, were just joyous and happy, and not like, you know, you really wanted, like, you had people with, I remember looking back at some of your stuff that you did, and it was like, oh, these people have regular human facial expressions. You ever open those magazines and you look at everyone's facial expressions, you're like, that's not even just, you know, anyway.
So and it's overly photoshopped. But I used to say to them, like, you know, I'm creating a company that authentically believes every person is beautiful. So why wouldn't I show every person as the models, right? And it was this just constant pushback. And by the way, sometimes it's little things. I remember, you know, I love some good sweats. Like, I'm wearing sweats today. I love some good sweats, and I'll be fancy every once in a while. But in the start, for those of you that haven't heard the story, I sold the company I started in my living room to L'Oreal for over $1 billion. And it was 3 years of meetings with them. And the first time I ever walked into their office, I felt so odd, so out of place. Like, everyone dresses so well. and you know, and I was just like, okay, you know, but here's the thing, I didn't change who I was. And I didn't start dressing like everyone at that company. And I didn't, right? And what happened, my whole point in all this, you guys, is, you know, by the time L'Oreal bought our company for $1.2 billion, this was after years of meetings, they have the most beautiful portfolio of like 40 companies, 40 different beauty brands. And none of them were doing what we're doing. Like they're all doing their
Yeah.
own thing really beautifully because I stuck to being odd and I didn't conform every time.
Yes.
I thought, oh, well, if I do this, then that retailer will carry our products, or if I change our packaging, then we'll be accepted. Like had I changed everything, they would have never bought our company because we would have been doing what everyone else is doing. And instead, because we were odd, we brought value to their portfolio. We didn't compete with anyone else in their portfolio. We were odd. We brought a whole new value and a whole new customer base. And
let me give another word for this too, Jamie, because this is like, I really want to, because I want to transfer this from, you know, odd or even authentic, which can be, you know, kind of like, sometimes I know someone watching might think, oh, that's like pop self-help, you know, here they are just being positive about this. Let me share like with some hard truth what that means. Being odd means you bring what is important to you into your day every day. You bring what is important to you into your work. Because what is important to you, that's your values, that's your inclination, that's your vision. That's your unique spirit or voice or inner speaking to, I want to do this and I want to do it in this unique way that's my way. And when you honor that and you show up and you do that over and over and over, all your quote unquote brand, whether that, or who you are, or how you live as a mom, as a team, as a leader, what happens and what manifests is this unique identity that's truly you, because you are living the things that are important to you and you're bringing what's important to you into every day. And so for those of you who aren't on this track to build $1 billion company, or you're like, oh, I'm not like Brandon, I don't do that stuff, you know, on the internets. Here's what I'm saying. Bring what is important to you into the world every day. And that oddness, that uniqueness, that will manifest itself into what you feel is living a life of personal freedom, doing what is important to you and beautiful to you. And that's where you find fulfillment. Because I would say fake does not equal fulfillment. You can't fake it into fulfillment. You can fake it and get things done. You can fake it and stand out for a minute. But over the long term, you'll be miserable because you didn't bring what's important and true to you into your life. And so what Jamie had her ultimate success, just knowing her now as a friend and doing this Growth Day morning show together. And we have so much conversation together pretty much on the daily now. It's like she brought what is important to her into her space. She had rosacea. She said, I'm going to solve this rosacea thing. I need that's important to me. She solved her rosacea challenge by concocting cosmetics that are in her house. And that became literally $1 billion empire, y'all. So you just have to go, what's important to me? Let's work on that. Let's solve problems that are important to me. Let's express myself in ways that are true to me. And if you do that year over year over year over year, that's how you build something real.
Yeah, and I love that you use the word unique, because that's such a great word too, right? Versus odd. I'm like, we were odd, but unique. The things unique.
I'm from Montana. I say weird. I'm weird, right?
You're weird. But and my big thing is, yes, live those. Like you said, yes, bring them into what you're doing, but also don't be scared of them when someone else doesn't get it. Like don't change your uniqueness or your weirdness or your oddities when they're true to you and to your values, just because someone else doesn't get it. You know what I mean? And I think that's the most important thing, even though, like, I'll probably talk about this for another 100 years, but rejection sucks and rejection is painful. And it never got, it maybe got a little easier because I've gone through hearing no probably thousands of times in the journey, but it's never fun. But had I ever listened to that you're not enough feedback when it was something that was an authentic, unique oddity of a value I believed in, had I ever changed that, we would have never, ever had the outcome that we did. And it was just such a real life, full circle, good learning that, oh, wow, it was our oddities, our uniqueness, all of that about our company that we stayed true to that ended up really building something of value.
The first thing I'll say about authenticity, because so many of us are scared to be who we really are, right? Because we fear rejection or isolation or not being included or judgment or all those things. And first of all, just one little tip, and you'll know this So probably way more than I do, Jim. But one thing that's always helped me is like so many studies out there talk about how it's impossible to have a real true connection with another human being if you show up as your representative, if you don't show up as your full authentic self, for better or worse, right? The good parts, the bad parts, the quirky parts, whatever. And whether the relationships you want to have are with your partner or your customers or your community on social media, you actually cannot have a fully authentic relationship if you're not showing up as your full authentic self, for better or worse. And so if right now you're listening and you're like, oh, well, I'm showing up kind of as the person I think I need to be, or I'm getting distracted by other people on social media because they're having great success, or their podcast is doing well, or their business, my competitors' businesses are having success by doing this, so I'm going to do that. You are robbing yourself of that actual authentic connection with your own customers, your own community, or your own friends, or your own family. That literally is the only way, from my experience, to build anything that lasts, anything that matters. Like in my journey of now doing over 1,000 live TV shows on QVC, right? I've met thousands of entrepreneurs in the green room, and most of them only last one show, maybe two, and they're gone. And I would like, over the years, I would think, what is that commonality between the people who end up building something? And it's never how smart they are. It's never how skilled they are on television. It's never that. It's the ones that like are the same way in the green room when no one's watching as they are on air. And they're not, none of them are the same. Some are crazy and wild, and some are totally like, whoa. And some are really kind, but the ones that have that congruency, that show up on air and sell their product, whatever it is, whether it's a Dyson vacuum or a personal growth, whatever it is, they're the same, right? Because guess what? The people watching are able to connect because you can't fake authenticity. And I feel like learning that is freedom, because it is so stressful when you feel like you need to show up on social media as something that you're not, because you're trying to build a following and get more likes, or you're showing up in the dating world and you're as your representative, because whatever, it is so stressful. But like, when you realize being authentic is it's the most freeing thing, because you now no longer care if something's working for a competitor in your industry or this or that, because it doesn't matter unless it's truly authentic to who you are. And one quick thing is, like, I used to end up, we built to over 1,000 employees. So I went from not paying myself for 3 years to over 1,000 employees. And they would get so sick of me saying this, but I feel like it was one of the keys to our success was they would, tell me something a competitor was doing or a new product launch or whatever. And I would say, listen, our biggest threat to our business is not what the competition's doing. It's the risk of us getting distracted by it and like getting tempted to dilute our own authentic secret sauce. That's it. And it was kind of like staying true to that helped us actually build something that mattered. And listening to that, even sometimes when the experts out there, or in my case, the retailers, were telling me they didn't believe in it. And one more quick thing is just in this process, because you mentioned, the people around you, if they're doubting you, right? Another big tool just to share with everyone listening that helped me is just everybody around you in your circle, whether it's friends, a partner, people you work with, whoever. They're only capable of believing in your dream, whether they realize it or not. They're only capable of really believing in it, usually, if like their own lens they're seeing it through of life experience and limitations has already proven to them it will be successful, right? Like, so many people, even experts or visionaries, like they would never admit this, but like, if you're doing something new or novel, or maybe it's been done a million times, but you're doing it your own way, it's really hard for anyone else to ever think it's going to be successful, because they've never seen it be successful before, because it's never been done the way you're going to do it. So keeping that in mind, and Jim, I would have this imaginary volume dial, and everyone listening has this. Okay, imagine you have your control over your own volume dial. I think one of the biggest keys to overcoming self-doubt on your own journey, whether it's to start painting again or to start writing that book or to just freaking go online and make an online dating profile and put yourself out there, right? I think like one of the biggest keys is learning how to control your own volume dial with who you let speak into your life about what. And what I learned, and again, I share a million things I did wrong in this book too.
Here's the, because a lot of people, we talk about dreaming big today. And I feel like a lot of people have these reasons they think they're not quite ready to dream big yet. And maybe they think they don't have the right support around them, or they don't have the right setup on their computer, or they don't have the right team they've hired, or they don't, all these things. And I think part of you showing and me showing, hopefully both of us, all the real stuff, it's like, oh, you don't always need to have all that stuff together to start or to dream big and to start having that vision. That's a big vision for where you're going while enjoying the moment.
People, I love that. Big vision for where you're going while enjoying the moment, and knowing that 100% of success stories you have ever heard, that success story began with somebody going 90 miles an hour and putting the wheels on as they were going and building the thing. They endured years of mess and disorganization and trying to figure out and doubt and risk of failure on the precipice daily. And you don't get that easy path when you want to do great things. Yeah. It's difficult. Les Brown always said, I love Les Brown. Les has been on our stages. Les is a personal development legend. I hope you know who he is. Les Brown always said, he's like, if you want your life to be easy, do hard things. If you want your life to be hard, do easy things. And it just says, it's like, oh, you have to push. You have to struggle. Here's what I want everyone to know. Thinking big today. This is my message to you. And thinking big. You are clueless to the depths of your capabilities. You have no idea what you are capable of. You have no idea what your full potential is. And I'm not judgment. I don't know either. Like, there's one guy up there. For me, I'm a spiritual person, so God's got me. God knows the immensity of the soul he put into this body, and no one else does, including me. I have no idea the immensity of the challenges God's got lined up for me 5 years from now, or 10 or 3 or 4 minutes. Like, you don't know. But what you do know is you're going to arrive and you will be summoned to call your best forth to serve one day. You will be summoned to rise above your own little insecurities and comforts and joys and ask, wow, how can I get more out of myself to be of service in this moment? Whether that is your first 2 years with a new baby, and you're like, my eyes, I haven't slept, you know? Or it's that first 4 years of your startup. It's going to demand so much of you, but you will rise to it. You will be capable. You will learn as you go. So stop all the waiting, get in the game, put the wheels on as you're going, move towards that dream with more rapidness, because you'll figure it out as you go. It won't be perfect. Jamie said, you're so vulnerable. Yet the other day you said to me, I feel like never in my life, Brendan, have I dropped more balls, I think you were saying.
And right now.
Tell them about that, because you're thinking big, but she's built $1 billion business. And right now, even after having that experience, she feels like this is life, y'all. Anyway, tell them about that.
I think, when I think back to the early days of building It Cosmetics, there were years of I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And I was trying to do every job in my living room because I couldn't afford to hire anybody. And I think anytime we're also doing something new or dreaming big and trying to go to new levels, just the newness of all of it is overwhelming, right? Because we don't know what we don't know. And so, at the end of a 10-year journey with that, building over 1,000 employees and $1 billion company and all that, I knew a lot about the beauty industry and about manufacturing and legal and acquisitions and building a team and leadership and all those things, right? And now, as a first-time author, I actually
a whole new game.
A whole new game. I feel like literally I'm back in my living room. not knowing what I don't know, right? And it's a growth, a major season of growth for me. And you and I, Brendan, talk a lot about just the idea of being a lifelong student. And I'm proud to be a lifetime student. And I'm honored to learn from everyone in our community right now who's posting in the comments and posting in Facebook and posting in Instagram. A part of the Growth Day Morning Show. We learn from each other. I learned from all the other Growth Day coaches. And I'm in a season right now of going, okay, because for the last 5 years, I've been offered book deals because of my story, but I didn't want to have a ghostwriter do it. So I said no for 5 years. I wanted, because I have learned in my life, like, you cannot fake authenticity. And, one of the things I talk about in the book a lot actually is how, authenticity alone doesn't guarantee success, but inauthenticity guarantees failure. And that's in everything, right? And I talk about all the lessons I've learned around that in the book. But then for me to have that book actually truly serve at the highest possible level, I wanted to write every word myself. I knew it had to be authentic. So this has been 2 years, actually, a year and a half, little over a year and a half of growth and of dropping so many balls and
learning new things, messing it up, trying to get into it.
Yeah, like you saw me when I got the first cover in. I was cutting it out and taping it to Jay Shetty's book because it was the right size. Every little thing I'm like trying to figure it out, and because I want it to be authentic and I want it to be right and I want to have no regrets. But yeah, I am dropping balls everywhere in terms of, last night I was up all night writing web copy, writing because I want it to be authentic to like the heart and soul of how I want to serve. And I'm doing a big launch event, which we'll talk about later, because it's still top secret, but we're going to tell everyone on Growth Day first. But
she's doing it big. She's going for it. Listen, she decided to write a book. And I want everyone, I know some of you are thinking about writing a book or launching something new. When she said, I'm going to write a book, she said, I want it to be a bestseller. I want it to really impact millions of people. I want it to be a New York Times bestseller. I want to really get it out there. Even though, please listen, she'd never written a book, had no idea how to write a book, and had zero idea how to promote something.
Yeah.
Her confidence in thinking big came from her belief in her ability to figure things out. She's like, I'll figure it out. So your big vision should not be limited by today's skill set or today's competency. Your big vision should be based on your service you want to give, your dream you want to live with your family. And you will develop the skills along the way as you get in motion towards the thing. You don't start the journey perfect. The definition of perfection is to perfect. To perfect requires that you start. You start something, release something, launch something, and you perfect as you go. Perfect is a verb. It is done to something that is out there, that is released, that is built to perfect. And so you don't start perfect, you perfect. And then as soon as you go, oh, okay, we're going to start this Growth Day Morning Show. We don't know how to plug it into Instagram or Facebook. We don't know how to use an outwork mic, these mics. We don't know what the heck we're doing. Our first 4 days, we were just perfecting how to do that little piece. We still are. I think that's so important. And Jamie, I want to give you credit because sometimes you feel like you're dropping so many balls because you're so good at what you're doing in every other area, but you're also doing awesome and you're getting great momentum, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm just trying to be brave, and I'm trying to, and this, this is something that I think is huge too, is we often talk about when, I have a whole journey of hearing no for years, right? Experts telling me my vision wasn't going to work for It Cosmetics and all those kind of things. But I still believe that it's our own self-doubt that kills more dreams than almost anything else. It's our own kind of limitations that we put on ourselves, or our own reasons we give ourselves why we need to still wait to do something, or we're not quite ready to write the book, or any of those things, right? And I get why, because doing it all and putting ourselves out there is scary. And sometimes it's easier to not dream big, because then we don't have to be afraid of not hitting that mark, or we stay in our comfort zone, right? But I think that to recap what you said in the start of this, which is so good. It's so good. Is until we like take those chains off we put on ourselves, we don't know how much we're capable of. We don't know the level we're capable of dreaming and serving and giving and creating and ideating and inspiring, right? And leading and all of those things. And I think that, and
the level of discipline you're all capable of. The level of, so Jamie is in what we call a launch window. So for those who are new, Jamie is launching a book called Believe It, and it comes out next month. I hope that you will pre-order on Amazon. It's called Believe It by Jamie Kern Lima. Comes out next month. She's in this time we call a launch window. A launch window is when your life becomes very like deep work, essentialism, high performance habits. You are doing this thing. A lot of balls are falling all over there because you have this limited amount of time to launch this thing. And until you've been through that several times, you don't know how much you can get done. I'll give you an example of thinking big. This month, if you told me, okay, Brendan, in 1 month, listen to y'all, in 1 month, rebranded the company, onboarded 20 plus people and teams from outsourcing and internal all around, launched a new offering, brought in all our new growth coaches, in other words, found like 8 other new promotional partners and friends to serve, built a new software team, building the software, serving all of our customers without missing too many beats, launching a new community platform, launching this show, and somehow enjoying the month. If you told Brendan, 19-year-old Brendan, that was, he'd be like, I don't know how to hire. I don't know what a brand is. I don't know what a company is. What is it? Like if you told your former self that, or your future self, I should say, you don't know what you're capable of. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, look at me, because feel like I'm putting the wheels on as I'm going. But I said, okay, let's just get in motion. We're going to figure it out. We're going to go. It's crunch time. Let's go. Let's move things forward. Move things forward. Move things forward. You will perfect as you go. But no way could I imagine that we could do all of this in a single month until you go for it, guys. You got to go for your dreams. Thinking big means moving big, taking big action, taking daily, you might call it small actions, but those daily small actions compound. You got to get in the game. Some of you, it's so easy to sit it out and you're still waiting for someone's approval or someone's understanding. It's like, if you feel like no one understands you, you have no one to blame but you. We have to learn. And I don't say that judgmentally, I had to learn to communicate. I sucked at communicating. I felt like I didn't have connection with people because I didn't know how to communicate. Be vulnerable, share emotions, like create human, like good friendships. I didn't know how to do that. So I did like a lot of you personal growth lovers who read How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie. Anyone read that? Oh my God, changed my life.
Yeah, I need to reread it. I read it like 20 years ago.
So good.
Yeah.
Such a classic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
so
I did that because I was terrible with people. And so now I communicate to millions of people daily. So if you told that really awkward dude, oh, you're going to talk to millions of people, you didn't believe it. But as you jump into the dream and you get momentum, you start to believe it more. You get more skills, more capabilities. Those capabilities lead to competency. That competency leads to confidence, and you're moving. I don't know.
Yeah. And not only do you talk to millions of people, you train other incredible teams. I know I always bring up Oprah's team on the show, who I know you've trained, but you train so many people how to do it also. So it's like, not only do you do it now, you also are like one of the top people in the world at helping some of the top people in the world do it themselves. So it's pretty remarkable. And one thing I want to share, because I'm reading the comments, a lot of people saying, oh, it's hard to unchain ourselves. It's hard to start. It's hard to start when we don't know if our idea is good enough, or we don't know if our dream is right, and all that kind of thing. And one thing you just said that I just want to call out, because I think it's really important, is that sometimes people do cheer for you after you've made it. And I want to call this out, okay?
Yeah.
Because so I've lived through this. I have lived through this, okay? I have so many stories, and that's why it's so, everyone writing a book, it's like it is the greatest joy to go, oh my gosh, if people knew I went through all this, they would feel less alone. They would feel like they can get through it too, because this is the real stuff that happens. But there were so many people that did not cheer for me until after after my company was a success, or after
Yes.
we were
So
splashed in
true.
all the magazines, or after. And often when they start cheering for you, then it's in the form of, I always knew that you'd make it, or I'm so proud of you, I've been rooting for you from the beginning. You're like, no, you were. But it's okay, right? I think it's
Right.
or they're like, they're telling people how they know you, and it's wild to watch this. And it's not that they mean harm. Here's what when I've peeled back the layers on this, there's a couple lessons here I want to share with anyone, especially if they're scared to start, if they're scared to take that jump, if they're scared to dream big and call their shot and go for it and all of that. Because what we start to do, I think, as humans, is we share our dreams or our ideas with the people around us. Sometimes we share them in groups. And then sometimes we share them with experts, or with, people in our industry that have had a lot of success or whatever. And then when we don't get the kind of response we're hoping for, right? Then we start to doubt ourselves, and we start to think we're not ready, or we think, oh, you know what? A million other people have done this idea. Like, maybe I shouldn't do it. It's already been done so many other times. So here's the big thing I've learned, okay, is, first of all, as we know, the only way to ever have a human connection is to show up authentically, right? And that can be with your partner, with a friend, with your customers online, with what you're doing, right? With how you're launching your dream. So just to take a step back, if you are doing something authentically, right, your dream. So in my case, there's a million beauty companies out there, and I launched a beauty company. Well, there's millions of them. Someone had already done it. Millions of people had already done it, right? But when you do something authentically, no one can do it the way you're doing it, right? So by definition, what you're doing is novel. By definition, it's never been done before. And here's what I've learned. Other people, typically, even experts, even visionaries, they typically can't imagine something being successful unless subconsciously they've already seen proof that it's already been done and it's already been successful.
Yes.
But because you're doing it authentically to you, it's never been done before. So don't be surprised when the people around you who love you, or the experts you have so much respect for, don't initially give you the reaction to your big dream or your big idea. It's because no one's done it the way you're going to do it. So it's never been done before. It's novel, it's new, right? And most people would never admit this, but unless subconsciously they've seen it that way and they've seen it succeed, they're not going to believe that it will. So
yeah. Except people who have done it themselves.
Themselves.
Like you and I believe in people. We believe in you guys so much because when you meet people who came from nothing and they built it and they did it, they're the ones who usually are on board. Like, sounds like, go for it. Don't know if it's going to work, but cheer them on, encourage it. Like, people who've actually done it are the most encouraging. Yes.
Yeah. And we've gone through the journey of hearing thousands of people not believe in us. And then when you come out of the other side of that, you're like, and you have a whole new perspective, right? But the truth is, I mean, in my own journey, for example, as it pertains to building the company, I also learned years later, the hard way, after crying myself to sleep a lot of nights, after hearing a lot of no's, I learned, oh, wait, most of the beauty retailers, they're amazing and they're great. And they all said no to me for years, but they've also never actually built anything themselves.
Yes.
Right. And it's like, oh, and to your point, that's why I'm so passionate about Growth Day and supporting it however I can, but also this morning show, right? Because it's like when you surround yourself with people that are in that space, that share these kind of stories, then you're like, oh, okay, I get it that, like, Aunt Margie said that she didn't think this was going to be a success, but that's okay. She loves me anyway, and she's never built something like this. So she's seeing it through the best lens she knows how, but I'm not going to let that penetrate me, or me calling my shot, me going for my dream, me dreaming big, right? So I want to share that to you this morning. I want to share one thing that was life-changing for me. on this journey to confidence. And, you know, I went through a season of what I thought was setbacks. I was anchoring the news. I was working as a journalist. I thought it was my dream job. I always wanted to interview other people, right? And share their stories, like since the time I was a little girl and I was in my dream job. And I started getting rosacea, which is a hereditary skin condition. It was pretty bad. I went through this big season that really affected my confidence, right? And I would get these big red bumps and it would be bright red. And sometimes, you know, even now to this day, Brendan, when, like, let's say I drink wine one night, or it's just a stressful time, or it's just a season, or the weather, and all of a sudden.
So the last 6 months, basically, is what we're talking
basically.
about here.
I'll just have these, I get really bright red. It kind of can feel like sandpaper. And I went through this season of thinking all the thoughts our inner critic thinks, right? And it really affected my confidence for a long time. And I had this realization in my life, and it really happened the first time I went on live national television and actually took my makeup off. And it's this, right? It's this idea that there are things that we are embarrassed of. And I think this is universal. There are things we're embarrassed of that we let affect our confidence. There's past mistakes we've made. There is, you know, things that we tell ourselves are wrong with ourselves or aren't enough about ourselves. And yet when we embrace them, when we just make the decision to say, oh, this isn't what's wrong with me, this is what's right with me. And I know that's hard, but when we make that decision, when we do something afraid, it literally shrinks that fear. It shrinks the thing that we thought was really a big deal, right? When we share our story for the first time, or do the thing that's holding us back. And I'm just gonna, I literally, because, you know, I have makeup on because I have a press day for book all day today for the book launch. But I just want to show you something, okay? Because I want to challenge everyone inside the Growth Day morning show. This weekend, we're going into a weekend. I just want you to think about one thing that's holding you back in your own confidence and just do it. And just take that risk and just step forward, okay? And I just want to show you because something happened to me when I did it. So I have a makeup remover wipe, Brendan. This is, you've probably never seen one of these. This is a little towelette. I just want to show you something, right? Because so I just have makeup on for press later today. But when I take this off, and I'll never forget the moment I did this for the first time, because I used to think I should be embarrassed or something's wrong with me or I'm not beautiful, all those things. And when I started taking my makeup off, right? Because when I created a company, it wasn't about, oh, these are products that work for, you know, all kinds of skin. It was like, oh, here's what beauty is. It's every single one of us. And you are just as beautiful on the days you want to wear makeup as the days you don't. And something happened to me the moment I did it afraid, the moment I went on national television and just took my makeup off. And Brendan, what started happening literally is I was like, oh, like, it's not about me. B, we're all beautiful. I believe that authentically.
Yes.
I'm no longer afraid of rosacea. I'm no longer embarrassed by it. I no longer think it's ugly. And when I go into grocery stores now and I have no makeup on, right? I'll have people I don't know will be like, oh, are you sunburned or are you not feeling well? And I'm like, no, I have rosacea, it's a skin condition. And I just try to normalize it. And when I see other people, other women, you know, with red cheeks or hyperpigmentation or all this stuff, and I see them just bravely bearing it, I smile like it's like a thing, right? And
it's a beautiful thing. It's inspiring.
Thing. And I think together we're changing the world. And I pulled up one quote I want to share with everyone this morning on the Growth Day morning show, because again, we're all in this together. Every one of us has something that we feel like makes us feel not enough, or we're embarrassed about, or it's hurting our confidence. And, you know, there's a famous quote. So I wrote it down right here, and it's attributed to Albert Einstein, but also a lot of other people. So I don't know the original source, but it says, everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its whole life believing it's stupid. And I think when we judge ourselves based on something we've defined as wrong with us, we risk spending our whole lives thinking we're wrong.
Yes.
Like when there's something that is holding us back in our own confidence, and we're the ones telling ourselves we're not enough, like we spend our whole lives then thinking we're not enough. And I don't want to swear on the birthday morning show, but I will say this stuff has got to change.
Yes.
This stuff has got to change. And I want to read this quote one more time, because a lot of us are like this fish judging itself to climb a tree, okay? Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its whole life believing that it's stupid. This stuff with what we believe about ourselves and the meaning we attach to the things we think are wrong with us is got to change. And when we take that, when we take that step and do it afraid, right? One person who just wrote down here, I think it was Janie wrote, I'm scared to have conversations with other people. You just start, you just do it. You just keep doing it. And once you start doing those things, you build a lot more confidence in it, and the fear shrinks. Like I was scared to death, right? Because I have it on both cheeks. I was scared to death to do this the first time and the second time and the third time. But now, but all of a sudden that fear, that self-doubt, that insecurity shrinks, and it becomes replaced by empowerment. And oh yeah, I can do these things. And oh yeah,
self-trust and congruence and readiness. Because I love what you're saying, because confidence, y'all, if you wait to have confidence to do something, you'll never do it.
Yeah.
Confidence is gained in momentum. So if you want more confidence, you get in momentum. You enter the fear, you enter the unknown, you enter the uncertainty, you try it. And as you survive it and do it, you realize, oh, I can handle this, which builds competence inside.
Yeah.
And because you tried it, you have self-trust. You go, oh, I went for it even though I didn't know how it's going to go. And the self-trust and the self-respect and the self-worth grows, not because you achieved something, but because you tried. Because you tried, you moved forward. The achievement was the trying, and you did it. And you also realize that most people aren't, like when you did this, I was watching the comments really closely, Jamie. First, would you all give Jamie a round of applause, because this is so inspiring? Give her some hearts, give her some claps, because this is like, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful what you just did. It's beautiful. And I'm watching the comments, and people cheer that on. People cheer real life on. We're always scared that, oh, real life people won't like that. So let me use the filter. People love real. People love this show. They're here every day because they're gaining with us as we're gaining momentum in growth day. They're gaining momentum with us. We're feeling good. We're moving in a direction. We're building new things. We're trying new things. But if you were me and Jamie in the first 4 days of this, it was a hot mess. Yeah. We didn't know how. She's like, we're sitting there with the blue tape, trying to figure out how to plug this in, how to make that go. The audio was all messed up. I didn't know I had to wear the earphony things because this mic was doing something weird on the. We had no idea what we were doing, but we're gaining confidence and steam as we go along, and we get to do that with you. Yeah. Please heed what she's sharing. I shared about that yesterday too. I want to just emphasize her fish out of water. That was yesterday's message too. Was remember that. Be kind of like water. The water, as it flows, can go around any obstacle, no matter how big the obstacle is, and it doesn't try to change its nature.
Yeah.
It follows its path. It follows its path. And by following your real path, not trying to hide who you are, following your real path, I really believe people will cheer you on and support you way more than the haters. The haters are, I'll just give you the rule. Haters are 10%. If you can accept that whatever you do in your life, 10% of people are maybe going to give you some negative feedback, criticism, judgment, unfair judgment, or hate.
Yeah.
What would you do in your life? Because that's only 10%. 90% of people got your back. You could swarm the haters. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. I love that so much. It's so true. And you know, it's beautiful too. The more you embrace the parts of yourself that you think are not enough, and literally you can switch your mindset around them and just embrace them as beautiful. Or, you know, in my case, a lot of times I think to myself, oh, this is helping someone else. It's helping normalize skin issues, or it's helping, right? It's like when we reveal the real of who we are, it shrinks our fear, it boosts our confidence, but it also becomes about something bigger than ourselves too. And, you know, one great example of this, anyone out there who knows Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx, right? Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx. So she is such a I love when people just show it all, right? She's married to Jesse Itzler, who I believe he's vegan. Sarah's obsessed with Cheez-Its and French fries. And she's not even trying to act like she's not. And it's a really cool thing because I'm just thinking of this because she's turning 50 and she just went on a trip by herself. So she has 4 kids and she's like, for a gift, I just want to go away by herself. She went away by herself and she's posting all week long from her hotel room what she's doing all alone. And I'm just a little biased because she brought my book, Believe It, with her to read the second time. She already read the book. She sent me a whole testimonial about it, saying every woman in the world needs this, every entrepreneur. And then she's now reading it a second time on her 50th birthday week. And she's posting it sitting next to, like, she has a table of wine, French fries, and salad to keep it all balanced.
This sounds great.
Right?
What a good vacation. Good job.
Like, that's the best. I mean, that's a room with some of my favorite things. Sarah Blakely, the Believe It book, wine, French fries, and it was Caesar salads that she had. I'm just like, oh my gosh, brilliant.
Well, she got the salad in. I mean, those points. Those points.
Yeah, she's like her husband will approve of one of those things.
If I eat something terrible like pizza or something, I'll like go to the pantry and eat like all these chlorella and spirulina tablets that we have. Like, I'm like, well, so I'll eat like a pile of them, just like a bunch of greens. I'll swallow after. I'm like, I'm good.
You're good. You're good. Yeah.
That's great. Everyone loves you. If you don't know what Jamie's talking about, she's talking about her book, Believe It. It is so good. Please pick it up. It is going to be a huge bestseller because A, everyone loves Jamie and believes in her. B, the value in this book of vulnerability, of sharing this difficult journey of how do you believe in yourself, start something that's your own, build it up, endure the constant no's and haters and criticism and frankly demeaning people that can be in the world, to follow your passion and build something that's real. And you have to do that. You have to believe it. So she did it as a play on words because her company was called It Cosmetics. Yeah. And so believe it as in It Cosmetics, but believe it also believe it. Believe is possible for you.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, you've done such amazing things with It Cosmetics. And I know, we've talked a little bit about it this year. We're working on, inspiring people to go after 1 million dreams together to help each other, all of that. And I think it's so easy to look at somebody like yourself and say, okay, you took something from scratch. Literally, you and your husband, Paulo, started in your living room and you eventually sold it for over $1 billion. It would be easy for people to say, oh my gosh, she probably wanted a cosmetics company when she was 2. Maybe she started when she was 5, right? But that was not necessarily the dream to start with. Tell us a little bit of how this blossomed.
Yeah, it wasn't the dream at all. And I get messages every single day, usually on Instagram, saying, did you get lucky? Did you have connections? It's like, no, none of that. And I realize so often we just see the outcomes of things when they're, or the highlight reel. And that's why I'm excited to do your show and also just write this book. Cause I think like sharing the real journey helps everyone else when they're launching their own dream, or maybe they're scared to go after their own dream, helps them feel less alone. So yeah, one thing you've talked about in one of your shows about this idea of sometimes our setbacks become our setups.
Yes.
That's really what happened to me when I launched this dream in my living room. And just to share a little bit about that, just for anyone in your community listening right now, especially if like they're they're in the season of setback or in the midst of a setback,
right?
That's really how this whole thing started. So I thought I was working in my dream job. And, since I was a little girl, I always would, sit in my living room and watch Oprah. And I always thought like, oh, one day I'm going to share other people's stories with the world. Like I always wanted to do that. And I was working in television news as a news anchor and thought I was in my dream job. And I started going through a season of setback, what I thought was a big setback. I got a skin condition called rosacea, which my skin is bright, it gets bright red with bumps everywhere. Sometimes it feels like sandpaper. And so I went to the dermatologist and I learned there's no cure for it. And I'd be anchoring the news. I tried all this stuff to try and calm it down, but I'd be anchoring the news and often live while I'd be on the air in my earpiece, I would hear from my producer, there's something on your face. There's something on your face. You need to wipe it off. You need to wipe it. And I knew,
which
like,
I'm
Mitch,
sure totally helped you to focus and calm down, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and then it's like when we go through these times that I started this kind of season of self-doubt where I would, like, my inner critic got so loud, and I would be live anchoring the news thinking things like, am I going to get fired? Am I losing? Our viewers changing the channel? I went through this whole season, started trying to find any makeup product out there. I never had even an interest in going in creating a beauty company. But I started, trying every product out there, and none of them would work. And I had this kind of moment where I had this kind of this gut feeling. Like, I think when dreams start to brew in us, or when there's like a seed planted in us where we have this dream, it kind of started that way, where I was like it was like a little inkling, like, wait a minute, if I could figure out how to launch it, how to create a product that works for me, I bet it'd help a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And then I would kind of like silence that dream, and my head would take over. Oh, Jamie, you have no connections. You have barely any money. You don't know anything about the beauty industry. And you're in your dream job right now. Right. And so I went through that battle. And I think everyone listening to us right now probably, like, really, if they get still, they probably know right now, if there's a dream on their heart, or something they know they're supposed to create or go after or offer the world, or start painting again or start dancing, right? They kind of know. But sometimes our head talks ourselves out of our own dreams.
Yeah.
So
We call that essence of a dream, right? Like that, because I think sometimes even the word dream, it feels too heavy, too big. Like people are like, oh, I can't go after that dream, or I don't know all that's there, or all that it will take. And it's like, all right, we'll just lean into that essence of the dream. And I love how you gave yourself that permission to first kind of look solutions for yourself, but then to be able to say, what if? What if? And I love too how it seems like very quickly after that, you also started to say, what if we did it differently? Because that was really something you started to do very early on, to be able to say, hey, a lot of the marketing, a lot of the ads around cosmetics don't seem to be all that real, or for real women. And I love how that really started to become a mission for you as well. How quickly after getting the essence of the dream and starting to walk it out, was that why of being able to say, all right, this is, I'm doing this for someone else too. How soon did that happen for you?
Yeah, I realized in the midst of, like, why can't I find anything that works for me, when I started trying to try all these products, I realized, oh, wow, my whole life I've never seen anyone in the ads that looks like me, that has skin problems, right? You just see photoshopped ads. And I kind of realized that there was never a product that works for me, but also never a product that even showed people with skin like me. And I want to say something that you said in the very open of our conversation that I think is really powerful, especially for anyone listening. You said, maybe you've never sat at the cool kids club or the cool kids table at school. Right. And I just want to say, for anyone who feels like they don't fit in, or they maybe don't belong, or they're not like everyone else, I really believe, Mitch, that can be your superpower. Because I think, like, I came into this beauty industry and I didn't fit in, and I was not, I mean, I didn't realize launching this company how it would be 3 years of being told no from all the retailers. And because everyone sees, oh, wow. Because, today, at this moment that you and I are talking right now, It Cosmetics is the largest luxury makeup company in the country, which is insane. It's because amazing. For 3 years, every beauty retailer said, no, you're not the right fit. Women won't buy makeup from models that look like that. On and on and on. Change your packaging, right? And I think that why we eventually were acquired by L'Oreal for so much money is because we ended up doing something so different, that, like, and unique and odd, that didn't fit in, but that people connected with, that it ended up being valuable to them. And I just think so many people listening right now, we're always told often in our lives to fit in and to conform. And sometimes when we fit in, it can actually be a disadvantage in a way because we start thinking the same. Do you know what
Right.
I mean? And
Absolutely.
I don't know. I just, sorry, that just like came out because I just think anyone feeling like they don't fit in, I think if you stick to who you are authentically, I really feel like that is when you step in the calling on your life. Like, right. And I think like it's so tempting for us because we all want love, we all want
Right.
connection, we all want those things. And it's tempting to do it at the price of who we are.
Yeah.
And when I look back at this journey, um, about turning a dream into, into something that impacted now millions of lives, I think that there were moments when people told me to change what we were doing, change that was never going to work, that if I
Yeah.
wanted to get in their stores, I had to do it the way they wanted me to do it. And those are the moments that I think could have stopped this whole thing from happening
Right.
had I listened. You know what I mean? And I don't know, just want to share that.
Well, I
Um,
love that. I love that one, you would hone in on that because I so agree with that. But also I think that you make that point so well in the book of being able to take those things that maybe you've seen as your limitations or your doubts or the things that have caused you fear, that if we just look at those a little bit differently, they literally can be our superpower. And I agree with you. I think, I mean, especially with the story, and I confessed to you before we hit record that I've not worn your makeup. I'm not an expert on the cosmetic industry, all of those things. But what I love about your story, and the more that I've dug into it, it truly is, obviously you've put together an incredible product, but the way that you've gone about it and doing it differently, which I think in some ways you had to like bolster yourself. You had to push through those no's. Those no's made you even more like, I don't know if it's the right word to say solid, but to be able to say, hey, we are choosing this. We are not doing this by accident. We are not doing this because it's easy. We're doing it because we feel like that's the right way to do it. And that's bolstered you to help you then navigate the storm. And I do want to say that, some people might hear this and go, oh my gosh, they went from their living room to selling it, the company to L'Oreal for $1 billion. It's like, oh, that's an overnight story. It's all those things. You guys, we're talking about hundreds of hours of week, working hard, paying yourself very little to nothing, and really fighting for this dream, which I think is also beautiful. And you've also surrounded yourself with incredible people. Now, I've gotten some questions from listeners. We're going to go after those in just a second. But one of the things is, I think what I loved about your story is that, so many things about your story, but you got the essence of the dream. You started to experiment. You saw the need. You saw the need to offer a product, but also promote that product, present that product in a different way. But I was curious, because so many people get the essence of the dream and immediately see the list of things they don't know or don't have, right? What's one of the ways, do you think, like, what was key for you to give yourself that permission to say, I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the connections. I certainly don't have the big bank account. What gave you, or how did you find that within yourself to be able to say, but I'm going to take that next step?
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes, and I talk about this and believe it a lot, that I think sometimes knowing when to let go of a dream is as important as knowing when to go after one. And
Yeah.
while I was in that spot of going, okay, my gut, my essence, so to speak, is telling me to launch this company, but my head is saying you're not qualified.
Right.
You don't have the right connections, all that. When I look back, and by the way, when you talk about, the early years, it was 3 years of hundreds of no's. And we got, we couldn't afford to pay ourselves the first 3 years of our company. If we ever had a date night, which was a miracle, we would go literally to the Costco, the outdoor Costco concession stand, we get
Oh,
$1 hot
absolutely.
dogs.
Yeah. You
Like
can get a
that
lot for a
was
couple of bucks at the Costco. That's exactly right.
at least, and it tastes good, which is the good part. But that would be a date. I mean, it was really tough. And there were so many nights I cried myself to sleep because it was another big no from a
Yeah.
retailer, or I didn't know how we were going to keep the lights on. It was a lot of years. And in the book, and believe it, I go into details about like some of the scrappy things we did, like how, we figured out how to do things when we couldn't afford to hire people. And I go into that because I think it's so important, because you don't see that stuff on social media. You just see everyone's highlight reel. And I just think like it's important for people that might, feel like it's just them struggling or not getting traction or hearing rejection after rejection. And when I look back at all of this, and I talk about so many things I did wrong in the book, but one of the things that I did do right, it wasn't that I somehow was smarter than someone else or anything like that. It was really that when I would get still and I would hear my own gut feeling, which for me is how I hear God talk to me, is in my intuition, right? But some people may call it the universe. Some people might call it just their own internal knowing, right? When I would hear that internal knowing, I would make the decision to trust it. And for me, that was one of the biggest things, because there were nights I literally would just cry myself to sleep. And I'd wake up in the morning thinking like, oh, was that huge rejection from QVC really real, or was that a dream? And then I'd realize it was real.
Very real.
And I'd be like,
very,
no.
very real.
And I mean, there were some really tough rejections. About 2 years into the business, we got a call from a potential investor that was a big private equity company. And I was so excited because they had a huge track record of making all of these products in grocery stores, big household names, and they loved our product, and they wanted a meeting, and we did a meeting, and then we showed them our product pipeline. And, we were several meetings in, and I thought, wow, if they invest in us, A, I'm not going to go bankrupt, and B, maybe they can use their connections to get us in these big beauty retailers that keep telling me no. And we got down to the final meeting, and I'll never forget this moment, because my husband and I flew up for this meeting, and we were standing about 3 feet from the head investor. And he says to me, congratulations. We really, really think your product is fantastic. But it's a no, we're going to pass on investing in IT Cosmetics. And we want to wish you all the best. And when I said, okay, can you tell me why? Because feedback is usually a gift. And he was literally about 3 feet from me in person. And he says, do you want me to be really, really honest with you? And I said, yes, please. And he said, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. Wow. And I remember, Mitch, in that moment, here's the thing. So 2 things. One, I went out in the car and cried later, but I instantly felt, like a lifetime of self-doubt and body doubt. All those things kind of flood my body. But I'll never forget this moment when he was saying that to me. Of course it hurt. Yeah. But when he said, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight, I got this feeling inside, and I can remember it like it was yesterday, that just said, he's wrong. Yeah. And I actually never got mad or it was weird. When you talked about the why earlier, because we all identify, it's so important to attach a why to any dream. But I did the work early on of identifying like, really, why am I doing this company? And it wasn't just to create a great product or to solve my own problems or to help other women, which was certainly all those things, but I wanted to shift culture in the beauty industry. I wanted to create a business where if I ever were going to make it, I wanted to use models that were all different ages and skin tones and skin and sizes and skin challenges. And I wanted to shift that definition of beauty for every little girl out there who's about to see these ads and start doubting herself the way I did growing up, and every grown woman who still does and person who still does. So I knew how important my why was to me. Yep. So when this guy says to me that, I realized, instead of getting mad, I think this is really important when we're going after our dreams, to not take rejection personally, because I realized him saying that to me, him passing on investing in my business, was really, he was just as much impacted by a life of the beauty industry as I was. Yep. He was making an investment decision based on what he thinks you need to look like to sell product. And so, and one more thing.
I love it. No.
Well, 6 years, I didn't hear from him for about 6 years. And 6 years later, when L'Oreal acquired our company, because it was such a big deal and L'Oreal's public, they disclosed the purchase price. So all of a sudden, in this one day, it's all over the Wall Street Journal homepage, everywhere. Like, IT Cosmetics, L'Oreal buys IT Cosmetics for $1.2 billion cash, this whole big thing. And I heard from him that day for the first time in 6 years. And he said, congratulations, I'm so happy for you. I was wrong, this whole thing. And
Wow.
I learned it would have been the most successful investment in his firm's history. But the other thing, and this is just, I want to share this in case anyone listening to you and me right now like is in
Yeah.
this season of rejection, right? Is there's these famous words, and I don't even know who said them, but they're famous words that say rejection is God's protection.
Yeah.
And like when we're going through rejection, we don't, it doesn't feel very good, doesn't feel
Right.
at the time like, how is this protecting me, especially when it's unfair, it's hurtful, it sucks. But like just, and I have so many examples of this in Believe
Yeah.
It, but the book, but just this one story is like, had he believed in me, Mitch, I was so desperate, I probably would have given him most of the company for almost no
Absolutely.
money.
Yep.
But because he didn't believe in me, 6 years later, my husband and I were still the largest shareholders when we sold to L'Oreal. And it just, I don't know. I just think that there's so many stories like that where I just think it's important that we have our perspective of faith
Yeah.
also when we're going through those tough seasons.
Well, and I so agree, because it is that whole thing of, and I think you and I share a very similar faith, which is awesome. And we've got people from all different faith backgrounds, but it is so powerful when we start to realize that those setbacks, sometimes that adversity, although it is brutal when you're in it, like I can only imagine that felt like a real punch to the gut. But
Yeah.
think about, like you said, that adversity in some ways is something you needed to dig even deeper. In some ways, it like proved your thesis even
Yeah.
more, of saying this absolutely needs to be fixed. And if somebody's going to do it differently, we got to do it. Right. And I also,
Yeah.
it did also protect you from then giving up a majority stake and all of those things. It's just incredible, but it's not easy, but it's
Right.
amazing. And I agree with you. You have so many different examples. And that's, I think I loved it in the book. So many different examples where that adversity, that setback, time and time again, really was a setup.
What's interesting though is when we're feeling insecurities, I'm obviously are familiar with the term imposter syndrome. And I've always said imposter syndrome isn't a bad term. You have to be good at being an imposter before you are actually the thing. It's like little girls, you watch them and they impersonate what it's like to be a mommy or to play house or to be a teacher or whatever it is, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever. And I remember every job I ever had from age like 16 on, day one, I always felt like, oh my, what am I doing here? I better pretend that I belong here. I better act like all the other people I see. And, it's not authentic, but that's kind of that's how you survive in the beginning, is to just like, oh, I'll just impersonate what I think I'm supposed to be acting and doing. And that's just what we do to make ourselves fit in, and it's all that we know. And I think for so many people, we do that until we're like, okay, what happens if I just try this little thing and see how people respond to it when I'm actually myself? What was that moment for you? And walk us through the fear that you had before you did it, and what was it?
Yes. Okay. Oh my gosh. Hearing you talk about this makes me so excited, because my instincts are, I literally just want to ask you questions for the whole show, which is, you know what I mean? Because you also went on that journey in your own fitness whole world.
Oh yeah.
I think you were Guinness World Record holder.
Crazy.
I'm literally doing a show with a Guinness World Record holder right now. This is, and
my mom is so proud.
Yeah. Well, and then you transition to like sharing all the stuff, not just anyways. Yeah, I love it. One thing you said too, and this is something that I went on my own journey for of doing that, is I remember, when Oprah once said when she started, she would try to pretend and mimic Barbara Walters when she would go on television, right? And then she eventually had this realization after she was comfortable in that space, kind of to your point, where she was like, oh, I think I could be a better version of Oprah than I can be a Barbara Walters.
Yeah. Do you remember that moment where you're like, I'm going to just do this and let's see how it goes?
I do. And it came after that season of big setbacks. So what I mean by that is I was anchoring the news. And since the time I was a little girl, I would sit in my living room, I'd watch Oprah. And I thought my whole life I want to interview other people. That's what I want to do, tell other people's stories. And so after school, I was working as a news anchor, and I started in real small market news. And much like being a student, by the way, to your point earlier, I had friends that got their internships in big stations. But sometimes when you go in the really big fancy stations, you kind of just pour coffee or whatever. And
Yeah.
I went to an unpaid internship in Yakima, Washington, where it was like the team was so lean that you had to do everything. So I got to learn how to write copy and edit video tape to tape, old school, and shoot one man band style, right? Everything, like and run the teleprompter with the foot pedal while I was, doing a story and all those things. And I just knew that's what I want to do. And so I had, I was working in TV news, and I thought this going to be my whole career. And I'd worked up to a station, a local Fox station in Portland, Oregon. And I was anchoring the weekend morning news. And this sort of big season of self-doubt, big season of setback came when I started getting this skin condition called rosacea, which is hereditary. There's no cure for it. And for me, it would get so severe that like my cheeks they'd feel like sandpaper. I would get huge bumps all over, and I would be anchoring the news live. And then I would hear in my earpiece from the producer, there's something on your face. There's something on your face. Can you wipe it off? Like live in the show. And I knew I couldn't wipe it off. And I knew what it was that makeup breaking up and the redness coming through. So for the first time in my life, I started being aware of makeup and buying, I spend my paycheck, which isn't very much in television news, started buying products like from the pro makeup artist shops, and then the drugstores, and then anything I could get from department stores. I would try to get the free samples first. And then after that, I would try like, okay, it's a $200 foundation, but maybe this works, right? And no matter what it was, it didn't work. It either wouldn't cover it, or it'd be so thick that I would be talking on the news and it would look like a mask of clay cracking.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was just like, and so I went through this season of self-doubt, the season of thinking, okay, am I going to get fired? Am I going to lose viewers? Because I went to a dermatologist to explain there's no cure, and I got all the prescription stuff and none of it was working. And I had this kind of big aha moment where I thought, wow, if I can figure out like how to make a product that works, it'll help me, but it may help so many other people out there too. And in that journey, right? But by the way, I knew nothing about the beauty industry. I had no connections. I didn't know how it was possible. I just started getting this kind of like knowing, I guess. And well, what if? Could I figure it out? Could I do it? What would happen? And I didn't realize at the time that it was a big setback, that was a setup to something I was supposed to do. On this journey, though, when we talk about going from imposter into to just full confidence of who we finally are, I had a big epiphany happen. And I realized, after trying so many products out there, I realized, why can't I freaking find anything that works? Like, this doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
And then I realized, and this was 2007. I realized, my whole life, to the point of your question, my whole life, I've always seen these ads on television or in magazines selling beauty products, and the models always have perfect skin.
Yeah.
And I've never seen anyone that has, bright red rosacea with bumps on it in an ad. And then I realized, I don't even know if they're wearing the product they're selling. And then I realized this whole kind of big epiphany of, that my whole life as a little girl, then growing up, when I would see those ads, I would love them. I would aspire to look like that. But yet deep down inside, they always made me feel like I wasn't enough. And this big kind of moment came over me where I was like, you know what? And by the way, I'm going on air as a news anchor every day, trying to look perfect, trying to do all those things. I had this moment where I'm like, what if this isn't even about the product? What if I could figure out how to create a product that works? But then what if I launch this beauty company and I take my makeup off, which I'd never done in my life. Take my makeup off and show, like if I could create a product that works, I'll just take my makeup off and show my bright red rosacea and show how it works. And maybe one day I could get on QVC and then use models that are all different ages and shapes and sizes and skin tones and skin problems and call them beautiful and mean it. And what if I could do something to shift culture in the beauty industry? Because if I could be successful doing that, I was like, I bet you other brands will copy me. And like, what, I started having these crazy God-sized dreams, right?
I'm curious about a personal question. Have you felt more self-doubt before QVC or right now?
Before QVC, but I still feel it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still a journey. I think that there's so many areas in my life I figured out how to overcome it, how to turn down the volume on it, how to believe in myself. And I try to apply those all the time. It's a lifelong journey, for me of believing where I come from doesn't determine where I'm going, of turning down like the volume on past mistakes or on miscalculations or that kind of thing. And, believing that, I think at the end of the day, I think all of us, no matter where we're at in life, on a journey of it.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
And,
one thing that happened to me that I share in the book for the first time with Oprah's blessing, she read it cover to cover. She blessed what I shared in the book. But having said that, I talk about, the first time I ever met her, and then I talk about having lunch with her for the first time at her house, just one-on-one, me and her. And
so I was there the day you met her, right?
You were there.
First time. We were at an event, and you met her. I didn't meet her. But what was that like for you?
From the time I was a little girl sitting in my living room, right? I would sit in my living room watching Oprah every day, Monday through Friday, and her sharing her vulnerability, her sharing her, all the parts of her, not just the perfect part, right? All the parts. Like, she was my mentor who I'd never met. You know what I mean? Like, she helped me believe, like, oh, maybe my dreams are possible. Like, my whole life. So I don't get starstruck. And with It Cosmetics, and growing, and then especially the L'Oreal acquisition, you have a lot of celebrities that want deals. They want makeup deals. So just because of that, you meet so many. So I think everyone's human. I think we all have the same doubts, same fears, same insecurities, same hopes. Are they
going to like me? Do they see me? Do they think I'm interesting?
We're all the same. Yeah. So I knew all that, right? And so the day that I met Oprah was at that event in LA, and it was a surprise. I didn't know it was happening. It's a long story, so I go into how it happened in the book too. But I ended up going into her green room, where it was just me and her, and I had never met her, and she's like, Miss Kern, and I'm like,
wow,
I'm freaking out. Wow. I was so out of my body in that thing. I literally just prayed for the right words, and all I could say was like, can you let me know if I can ever be of service to you? Like, I didn't know what, it's the whole thing. And after I met her, I went and spent like 3 days writing an email to her. Wow. Like, how do I even, and so I talk about this whole process and talk about the whole thing. And I ended up getting invited to lunch at her house. And so we...
One-on-one or with a small group?
One-on-one, yeah. I didn't know until I showed up, but I spent days like looking at all the things I was gonna, like, how do you bring her a
gift?
Yeah.
The woman who has it all.
Yeah. And so I won't give it up, but what I brought her is so crazy. It's so crazy. And it'll make everyone who reads it feel.
And you
really
get
happy.
A car. Yeah.
No, I know. I was like, what do you bring? And anyhow, after the day we had lunch, we spent a few hours together. And again, only sharing this because she has blessed it. She read the book cover to cover and gave me her blessing to share this story. But I left her house, and as I was leaving, she gave me her cell phone number. Mm-hmm. And she said, here's my number. Call me anytime. She's like,
you put the number in the book?
Oh my gosh, no. But
it's on page 100. No,
and this is recent, right? So she says, well, within the past couple of years, she said, you can call me anytime. Like, call me anytime. And I was like, thank you. And we did a video and all these things. To this day, Lewis.
You never called her? You never called her?
I text her.
I email her.
I would never call either.
If really? Okay, help me figure this
I would
out.
I would have only texted and just be like, hey, what can I do for you? How can I serve? You know.
Yeah, it's well, and I realized so. You know, if I have like a show, so I did a show with her friend Gail and all that, and I'll ask her for feedback or this or that, and she's like, "Do you want the truth?" And I'm like, "Yeah, please." And I'll text her, I'll call, but every time or I text her and I email her, but every time I want to share something with her, even just anything, I don't call. I haven't called to this day.
I know.
And I was trying to figure out, why haven't I?
Why haven't you?
Like, I'm the person that literally in my heart and soul managed to go from Denny's waitress to billion-dollar entrepreneur, because I learned to believe in myself and believe I belong in the room and overcome rejection, overcome fear, but I am still a work in progress, right? And I'm like, I'm not calling Oprah because at a deep, 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 deep level, I still don't think my vibration is high enough to like be with hers. And I know that's a lie. I know
so
it's a lie.
You've never called her?
Never called her. I know.
You should call her right now.
Oh my gosh. I know, but.
You should call her right now. You should. I think it'd be powerful to see if she picks up. To just say, hey, I appreciate you. That's it. Don't ask for anything. Just call her and see if you want to.
See, if I do it, it needs to feel like it's the exact.
Do it when you feel ready. Yeah. But I'm throwing it out there. Throwing it out there. Just to tell her what you appreciate.
Do you have these moments? Because I think maybe people, and by the way, I know, anytime we feel like we're not worthy of being in the room with someone else, of being at their level, it's a lie we're telling ourselves. I know that, right? And even for me, it's still a work in progress for everything. And I was like ashamed and embarrassed when I realized why I hadn't called her. Do you know what I mean? And like, I'm the best freaking friend, and I have everyone, right? Like, I wouldn't have written a word unless she had blessed it in the book. Like, I'm so loyal to people. So it's like, you know what I mean?
She told you to call.
I know.
A couple of years ago,
I know,
right?
yes.
On your drive home, you should call her.
Yes.
And just say, hey, I was just thinking about you and I appreciate you. You know,
Yeah.
Don't ask for anything. Just say, hey, just want to see how you're doing. I appreciate you.
Is there anything you're afraid of where you haven't done like that? You haven't done it yet? Would you call her?
You know, I'm the type of guy that I'm similar to you, but not because I wouldn't call her. Just I have friends who I know are so busy and are extremely successful, and I just see how busy they are that I don't want to bother calling them, that I'll just text them or send them a voice message or a video message.
Yeah.
Say, hey, I'm here for you. If you need anything, let me know.
Yeah.
And it's just, I know they're easier to respond over text, and maybe they would pick up or not, but it's just.
What are areas you have doubt? That you struggle with doubt and still? Have you like mastered it all?
No, I haven't mastered anything, I don't think. That's why I'm always learning.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock this house and welcome to the stage, Jamie Kern Lima! Jamie Kern Lima!
Every single one of us has had someone tell us we're not enough. Every single one of us has had someone say words to us that hurt.